Hey guys, and welcome back to the Sanilac Flashlight. Covering the Prosecutor's race that's coming up this Tuesday, less than a week. We've got two Republicans to choose from on August 6th, Mark Davidson and Robert Heyboer. Now, my original intention was to have a debate between these two and host it live and take all of your questions, but it became obvious early on that this was not going to happen. So I came up with a bunch of questions of my own. I reached out to you, my audience, to give me your feedback on what you wanted me to ask these individuals, and I came up with 15 questions that I submitted to both campaigns. Heyboer's campaign came back to me and told me that only one of the 15 questions would they be able to answer. Robert Heyboer's campaign manager then offered to help me rewrite my questions to make them more acceptable. I then tried catching up with Robert Heyboer at the courthouse to ask him a slightly different question. Robert, what does it say about your campaign that you've been endorsed by some of the most corrupt politicians in Sanilac County?
I can't talk about campaign stuff.
What does it say about your campaign that you've been endorsed by Brett Lester? So I figured if he couldn't answer campaign questions at the courthouse, I would catch up with him at the Deckerville Homecoming Parade.
Hey, Mr. Heyboer, what does it say about your campaign that you've been endorsed by the most corrupt police officers in Sanilac County?
Hi. Hi.
What does it say about your campaign that you've been endorsed by the most corrupt police in Sanilac County?
Hi.
What does it say about your campaign that you've been endorsed by the most corrupt police in Sanilac County?
Hi.
Hey, Robert, I don't like Whoppers. Will you eat these Whoppers?
Mr. Heyboer was supposedly planning on attending last night's We the County meeting to answer questions of the public. He did not show up. I submitted many of the same questions to Mark Davidson's campaign and did not hear back from them either. So we have two candidates, and neither of them seem to want you, the voters, to know what their agendas are. Beyond the unanswered questions, we can look at the endorsements that both candidates have. Mark Davidson has been endorsed by former Sheriff Gary Benecke. As for Mr. Heyboer, he has been endorsed by three public officials of note. Brenda Sanford, the outgoing one-term prosecutor who many regard as the worst prosecutor in living memory. He's also been endorsed by Deckerville Police Chief Fred Emile. What you should know here is that Fred Emile's biggest bust was prosecuted by Mark Davidson. The case was unwinnable, but Fred laid all the blame on Davidson at the end. This case involved a Deckerville man named Adolf Vishtai who was legally growing cannabis. You can see my previous video if you want to know the full interview of what took place with Mr. Vishtai. Now, Fred Emile is very ambitious and wanted to make a name for himself, so he tried busting Mr. Vishtai without any idea as to whether or not he was breaking the law. Instead of finding large amounts of cannabis, he only found the man's guns and ammunition. Chief Emile even called in the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, earning him the name Fred the Fed. Much of Mr. Vishtai's ammunition never made it into evidence. Chief Emile simply stole it from his property. When it became clear that the prosecution had no case, Fred Emile then lost his mind. Eventually, Judge Ross banged his gavel and ordered Chief Emile to return all of the defendant's guns. But Chief Emile refused. Mark Davidson then visited Chief Emile in his Deckerville office where a shouting match ensued, ending with Chief Emile allegedly telling Mark Davidson something to the tune of, "Get the F out of my office and never talk to me about this again." Now, Mark Davidson was just following the due process of the court, whereas Chief Emile was trying to make a name for himself while ruining the life of an innocent man. I should also note that in this case, while Mark Davidson brought the case to trial, all of the bogus search warrants were signed by none other than Robert Heyboer, which leads me to question further whether Brenda Sanford has been setting Mark Davidson up to fail all this time. Heyboer was also endorsed by disgraced Sandusky Police Chief Brett Lester, who runs a fraudulent charity that brought a pedophile into town who would go on to grab the young girl at Hope Thrift Store. So we have Davidson endorsed by a respectable former sheriff and Heyboer who was endorsed by some of the most questionable people in Sanilac County. When it comes to their effectiveness in prosecuting cases, there isn't much we know about Heyboer since Brenda Sanford moved him over to the public defender's office about a year ago, a move which some have suggested is Sanford's way of insulating Heyboer from any controversy during an election year. Mark Davidson is not well regarded for his ability to prosecute cases. He has been reported on in the Sanilac County News for having committed prosecutorial misconduct on more than one occasion. However, what you should know about these news articles is that they were all written by Casey Johnson of the Sanilac County News. Casey Johnson has a very public sexual relationship with Deckerville Police Chief Fred Emile. Is this starting to make sense now? So your choices here are between Mark Davidson, who is not a great attorney, and Robert Heyboer, who is endorsed by some of the worst people in the county and will presumably owe them favors after the election. I would never tell you how to vote in this election, especially when neither of the candidates are very good. If you are dismayed that these are your only two choices for prosecutor, I don't have anything to console you with. We live in one of the poorest counties in Michigan, and this is the level of talent that we attract. It's not a pretty picture, so do what I do. Plug your nose when you step into the ballot box on Tuesday and pick your poison. Thank you for watching, guys, and if you'd like to get more of these videos, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also join us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Good luck on Tuesday, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.